Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. This is Tending to Change, and I'm your host, Jenny Juarez. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get started with our second episode, I'd like to take a moment to talk about why I named this podcast Tending to Change. So, it's a fact of life that things are always changing. Moment to moment, our bodies are going through processes of creation and destruction. And our outer lives change as we grow through early childhood to puberty, midlife to old age. We will get, lose, and change jobs, friends, relationships. Our outer appearances will change, and we'll experience injuries and illnesses and death along the way. Even the natural, physical, and technological world around us is constantly evolving. And that can be really difficult for us sometimes because as a species, we really like homeostasis. We like things to stay the same. We like predictability and consistency because it makes us feel safe. So when things start to change too rapidly or drastically, that can lead us to feeling deeply unsettled. It can even bring up feelings of anxiety or stress, anger, depression, and all of this is really uncomfortable. Okay, so that's true. We get that. However, there's another meaning to tending to change, and that's attending to the change, turning toward it and cultivating it and working with it in a gentle and kind way. And so even though things are tending to change, I would like to invite you to learn how to work with that change more adeptly and more confidently, so that as the natural waves of life take us through challenging situations, we can learn how to work with them in a way that keeps us clear and steady no matter what is going on around us. That's what we're learning to do here. So I'd like to reflect on what we talked about in episode 1, which is autopilot and habits. One of the things that I mentioned is how our routines, even if they can become detrimental to us, they're also protective. They're familiar. Checking out and being on autopilot can be protective. What do I mean by that? Well, as babies, we come into the world very open and curious. Everything is amazing, but we don't have the language to explain or think about it. We just experience it directly through our bodies, and everything is wow. But as we grow up, we learn how to navigate the world socially through our caregivers and other influential adults, and we start naming things, thinking about them, and we receive praise and judgment or even shame to teach us which behaviors are appropriate and which are not. This begins to sort our world out in a way in which we become subject and everything else is object. This sense of separation from the world, and I say sense of separation because we are never actually separated from the world, but we are fully, inextricably connected to it. But this feeling of separation causes us mental and emotional pain that is barely perceptible at first. We all have a deep yearning for a felt sense of belonging because that is our natural state. It's already available to us, but it becomes obscured and hidden over the course of our lifetimes. As we grow up, the mental and emotional pain of disconnection becomes all the more obvious. We experience stress in school, betrayals of friendship, embarrassment in our ever-changing bodies through puberty. We experience relationship problems with our parents or family members, various forms of trauma, abuse, or neglect. I mean, no one grows out of childhood without some form of wounding. And that only compounds in adulthood as we try to make something of ourselves and feel successful in our jobs, in our relationships, to live in the right place, to look the right way. And while we're doing this striving and efforting, heartache happens, shame and embarrassment happen, and all these other challenging emotions. And it all encourages us to run further and further away from ourselves and from others. Okay, I'm painting kind of a bleak, depressing picture here, but it's not all bad, right? Like there are still flickers of joy, moments of awareness, things that make us feel deeply connected to our hearts and the world around us if we're sensitive enough to notice it. I mean, things like watching the sunset or noticing a butterfly landing on a flower, hearing a baby giggle, listening to live music in a crowd that's all synced up and connected to the sound and the rhythm. even an extra long hug or a belly laugh with a friend or a loved one. These moments bring us back to our natural state of childlike wonder and awe. There's a deep presence within those moments, and there's no thoughts about it, and there's no judgment. We just experience it purely. The problem is, even though these opportunities for moments of deep presence and connection are constantly available to us, we usually don't notice them. Thanks to our fast-paced, achievement-based, and highly distracted culture, we spend a great deal of our lives lost in thought. We're lost on autopilot. We stay running in this imaginary race of life, striving for the moment of success that will finally make us feel at home within ourselves. But the harsh truth is, no achievement is going to create this lasting sense of okayness within us. These highs are always short-lived, and then we're off to the next goal. And because of this, it's often only significant shifts, significantly painful shifts like death, a tragic accident, a life-altering illness, or a divorce that wakes us up from our frantic sleepwalk through life. These poignant, life-changing events, though, they hold the potential for us to look at our lives with clear eyes. And when we bear witness to our lives, when we deeply experience that who we are cannot bear another crisis or setback or disappointment, this is when our hearts cry out. This is when we ask for help from a deeper space within ourselves. And it's this deep longing for peace, connection, or even a general sense of okayness that generates a powerful energy of intention that can support us through transforming our habits and ultimately our lives. For me, I used to work in a corporate environment, 40 to 50 hours a week. My shifts were days, nights, weekends, and I also had 2 small children during this time. And I remember just constantly running through the motions of my day, catching up around the house and on errands on my days off, and doing the same thing day in and day out, feeling totally trapped within the walls of my routine life. Really, there was very little time for quiet, for self-reflection, for thinking about what my life was like versus what I would like it to be. No time for dreaming or goal setting. It was just an endless marathon with no finish line. And I realized looking back that that was protective, because when I did slow down, then the things I had been avoiding started to bubble up. Things like childhood trauma, body hatred, memories of sexual abuse, betrayal, shame, and I didn't want to deal with any of that. So alcohol, weed, food, they all became great crutches for me. Social media, cleaning, shopping, there are so many ways that we tune out. But this does not lead us to the life that we want to live. And so we do benefit from learning how to turn toward our experience. And like I said, it often will take a really shocking or poignant event to really shake us up from this sleepwalking. And for me, it was when my grandma died in 2014. My grandmother was my heart. She was that one person in my life who I felt loved by thoroughly and unconditionally. She was just a very steady and grounded, loving presence in my life. And she never made me feel bad about who I was. She was just a really wonderful woman. But when she died, I felt like the connection to that love died too. Looking back, I know that's not true. But at the time, my grief was profound. It dragged me right back into bad habits, coping strategies with sugar, with alcohol, sleeping, hiding from the world, not wanting to connect with friends or even really my family at that time. And it wasn't until things got so contracted and I was in all this physical, mental, emotional pain that I said, okay, enough is enough. I need to make a decision here. Either I'm going to give up or I'm going to heal. And for the sake of my children and my husband, I chose to heal. So this involved a lot of different things and over a long period of time. But at first it was physical therapy, chiropractic work, changing my diet. But one of the most significant changes happened when I tried yoga for the first time. I will never forget going into my first yoga class. I had bought a coupon pass for 10 classes to the studio, but it still took me weeks to be willing to go. And there I was, finally sitting in the parking lot, gripping my steering wheel with anxiety. Like I did not want to go in there. I was going to look stupid. I didn't know what I was doing. I was terrified. And finally I said, okay, Jenny, you just need to go. Just go try it. So I went into that class, and I have to tell you, it felt like I came alive in it. I could not remember the last time I had felt so embodied, like I was in my body, feeling my present moment experience, not lost in thought, not in a routine or on autopilot, just deeply present to my felt experience. And it was profound. So profound, actually, that when I finished that class, I approached the teacher and asked her, how do you learn how to teach yoga? Like, how do you learn how to go deeper into this learning? And she told me about teacher training programs in the area. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is my first class, and I'm asking about teacher training. Like, I had no intention to teach. I just really wanted to deep dive into this learning. And I asked her if I could hug her, and I thanked her and even emailed her later that night because I just felt in that moment that my life was forever changed. So I just want to drive home for you that when we really feel like we've had enough, like we cannot take it anymore, this generates such a deep longing for us that we're willing to break out of our routines and try something different. We set an intention for change. An intention is what turns desire into action. It infuses our ideas about starting a practice, and it doesn't have to be yoga. But I mean, why would we want to start a practice? And what do I even mean by practice? Well, there's a great quote by Moishe Feldenkrais, who is known as the founder of the Feldenkrais method, which is a physical exercise system that helps improve human functioning by increasing self-awareness. And he said, you can't do what you want until you know what you're doing. So if our routines and habitual state of autopilot are leading us down a path of dullness, lethargy, resentment, fear, and mediocrity, well, we first need to strengthen our attention span and our capacity to turn toward our discomfort with some curiosity and compassion so we can be able to set an intention and move in the direction of how we'd prefer to show up in our lives. We have to slow ourselves down enough, get quiet enough to know what we're doing, and then use that awareness to redirect ourselves again and again toward what we want to be doing. A practice helps us learn both the skills of present moment awareness and of beginning again over and over as necessary. Any kind of activity that we do on purpose with mindful awareness can become a practice. And when we do that with focus and that deep longing, it gives us the energy necessary to pursue that path with sincere earnestness. Once we have aligned with this intention for our own well-being, we will do whatever it takes to make it happen. We will willingly let go of the things that are not helping us, like mindlessly scrolling or spending or keeping ourselves so overscheduled we can't breathe. And we'll do that in favor of having the time to practice stillness and presence. We'll commit to beginning to practice no matter what secondary emotions we're feeling, because of course things like nervousness, self-doubt, or even boredom are going to come up. But we'll come back to it despite that because it matters to us. Now, there's no wrong way to practice. The best way to practice mindful awareness is whatever way you're actually going to do it. I have to admit that before yoga, when I think about it, my first experiences with mindfulness were when I started painting my nails with nail art. I mean, you can get quick dry nail polish that you put a coat on and it's dry in a minute or two and go on your way. But if you're doing nail art, you have to really focus on what you're doing, and you're using different tools and you're using a delicate, steady hand. And God forbid you make a mistake, you have to remove all the nail polish from that nail and start all over. So you cannot do this while having a conversation or watching a TV show. It requires all of your focus. And then you have to sit for forever to let all those layers of nail polish dry. Just having to sit in one place with my hands open, not moving or touching anything for 30 minutes, I realized that was actually a meditation. Okay, so maybe you're not into painting your nails and that seems silly. Well, taking a walk outside without your AirPods in your ears could be a meditation. If you're looking around, observing the trees, listening to the birds, noticing the people around you, You can notice your feet lifting, swinging, pressing on the earth. Walking is a beautiful meditation. So is creating art or gardening or repeating a prayer or a mantra. Anything you do with your full attention and focus with the intention of deep presence is a meditation. It is mindfulness. So when I really decided that I wanted to step into this stream of practice, I decided to start with my breath. I used to be so anxious and I have asthma, so I found that I was holding my breath a lot or breathing really shallowly. And I realized this is not helping me. It's important to breathe. So if I could commit to just one deep breath a day, I felt like that would be a good place to start. And so I would like to invite you to do this one breath meditation with me. So if you need to pause so you can find a place to sit down, either in a chair or on the floor, maybe get some support with some blankets or a pillow, take a moment to do that now. When you're ready, take a comfortable, dignified seat with your spine erect. Feel your feet press down onto the ground and rest your palms gently on your thighs. Allow your shoulder blades to soften down the back of your rib cage until you feel your heart lift gently. Let the chin lower softly as you lengthen the back of the neck, feeling yourself rooting down through the sitting bones. Now, feeling the body settled in the chair, guide your attention to your next breath. Feel as it draws in through the nose, expanding the chest, drawing the diaphragm muscles down into the body. And as you slowly release the breath through the nose, feel the belly and the shoulders soften. The eyes feel soft. The mind a bit more calm. Just one mindful breath a day can make such a difference. It's something you're doing on purpose, with intention, connecting deeply to the felt sense of the body. Maybe you set an alarm on your phone as a reminder. Label it as take one deep mindful breath. From there, a beautiful path will unfold. Thank you so much for joining me today. It means so much to share this with you. I really want for us all to be able to engage with our lives in a more meaningful and open-hearted way. It is so healing to ourselves and to our relationships and to our planet. And it helps us move forward with confidence and clarity. I cannot understate the value of a stillness practice attended to again and again over a long period of time. So that's what we're here to do together, to unpack the journey, to learn the why and the how, and to discover that as human beings, even though we each walk our own path, there are many common signposts, obstacles, and triumphs we will experience in common. And so I hope to continue to share some of my experiences with you so that you can feel less alone, more empowered, and more supported as you do this for yourself. So take care, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to getting together again soon.